Welcome to Guide Mia. Today we're going to talk about saving your design and requesting approval. This is the moment a finished design leaves your workstation and lands in the doctor's inbox for sign-off, a short workflow, but full of small rules worth knowing cold. By the end you'll know which files upload to Cympha automatically and which wait for your click, why one file type requests approval entirely by itself, exactly where the request approval button lives and when it hides, and what the customer sees on their side of the handoff. The written guide takes about 4 minutes. This walkthrough isn't much longer. Follow along with the case in designing, or listen now and read later. 3 prerequisites, and each one is load-bearing. First, a case in the status designing that you are the holder of. The request approval button only renders when both conditions hold, you're a lab-side user, and the case is currently designing. Second, a finished deliverable saved into the patient's workspace folder. What that means depends on the category. For an aligner case, a GVW review file or a transfer pack, remembering that the Ortho Plus project file itself stays local and never uploads. For an implant case, an STL of the guide. For a generic lab service, whatever the customer asked for in the intake form. Third, the Cympha agent manager running and showing paired in the tray. Without the agent, your saved files simply don't make it back to the cloud. If the icon says not paired, follow the install and pair guide before you continue. Everything in this lecture hangs on one split. Export or save your deliverable into the patient's case subfolder under the workspace, the one named from the category, then the patient, the date, and the case number. The agent's cloud monitor is watching that folder, and what happens next depends entirely on the file type. Review files and zip design outputs upload automatically, no click needed. Most other types are offered for upload but wait for you. The full list the agent offers is worth knowing once: STL, PLY, and OBJ meshes, PNG images, the GVW review file, plain text, PDF, the PIE format, XML, the GPK transfer pack, and zip archives. Anything on that list that doesn't auto-upload sits in the Cloud Monitor panel under New in Workspace, each file with its own upload and ignore buttons and an upload all above them, so you get to vet what reaches the cloud. And the Ortho Plus project file never uploads at all. It simply isn't on the list by design. Your working project stays local, and the cloud only ever sees the exported deliverables. Get this split into muscle memory, because the next slide is about the 2 files that don't just upload, they act. 2 files carry side effects, and they're the most important fact in this lecture. The GVW review file is more than an upload. When it arrives via the agent on a case in designing, it requests plan approval by itself. The case flips to awaiting approval and the doctor is emailed, with no button click from you. That's a feature, not a hazard, but it has one consequence: export the review file when the plan is genuinely ready to be seen, not as a checkpoint save. The transfer pack has its own trigger, later in the cycle, arriving via the agent on an aligner case sitting at approved or at changes requested. It fires the appliance step approval automatically. Same principle, the file itself is the statement that the work is done. Everything else on the upload list is inert. It uploads, appears on the case, and waits for you. Before requesting anything, confirm the cloud actually has your file. For the auto-uploading types, switch to the browser, open the case detail page, and scroll to the Files panel. The file appears shortly after you save it. For everything else, right-click the tray icon, open the Cloud Monitor panel, find the file under New in Workspace, click Upload, and then confirm it in the browser. If a file refuses to show up, run 3 checks in order. Is the agent paired? The tray shows the state, and the panel shows live activity. Is the file in the right folder? It must be inside the patient's case subfolder. Files dropped into the workspace root or the wrong patient folder are ignored. And is the extension uploadable? A project file or a temp backup never appears in the panel. For a one-off that doesn't live in the workspace at all, there's an escape hatch. The Upload via Agent button on the case detail, desktop browsers only, opens a local file picker and pushes the file through the same authenticated channel. Now the click itself. On the case detail page, look at the action row near the header. Request approval is the outline button with the check circle icon in the row of designer actions. 2 things about it that people expect and don't find. There is no dialog and no text box. The click sends the request directly, and Cympha works out which approval step is next: plan, appliance, or design, from the approvals already recorded on the case. And there's no note field. If you want to leave the doctor a written explanation of your design choices, send it via the case chat first, then click. The chat thread is preserved on the case for the customer to read. One more possibility worth naming: if your review file already went up via the agent, the case may already be in awaiting approval. The upload requested it for you, and this step has nothing left to do. The page refetches, and 4 things should now be true. The status badge changed from designing, in blue, to awaiting approval, in amber. A system label names the step, plan approval pending, appliance approval pending, or design approval pending, and the steps are fixed per category. Ortho, AlignerBot, and implant cases have two, planned and appliance, lab service cases, crowns, dentures, generic design, have a single design step. The holder shifts from you to the customer. For the purpose of the approval, they're now the one the case is waiting on. And the activity log gains an approval requested event with the step name in it. You'll also notice the request approval button itself is gone. It only shows while the case is in designing, so once the status flips, it has done its job and disappears. In its place, for AlignerBot operators, a different control renders when relevant, self-approve and run aligner design. It's worth being clear about which is which, because operators do ask. Self-approve runs the plan step approval automatically, right there on your workstation. It's the I'm both the lab and the doctor path, for cases with no external customer to consult. Request approval is the standard path that bounces the case out to a real customer for their sign-off. Pick the one that matches who the actual customer on this case is. On the other side, the customer gets an email linking to a dedicated review page for the case. At the top, the patient's name with the awaiting approval badge and the step label, plan, appliance, or design. Then a download link for the lab slip, and a file section listing every file on the case, with view links back to the full file panel. And then the decision panel, a one-paragraph reminder to review the files and the lab slip, followed by 3 buttons: approve, request changes, and escalate to lab manager. The page is deliberately built so they see the evidence before signing off, rather than one clicking something they haven't looked at. One category-specific rule: for AlignerBot and Clear Aligner AI cases, the request changes dialog enforces an uploaded XML tooth position file or replacement transfer pack before it accepts the rejection. Free text-only rejection is blocked by design. The planner can't act on prose. What that means for you is the subject of the rejection lecture. 3 outcomes, then. They approve, the case flips to approved, teal badge, and approved is a pivot, not a resting state. For digital delivery categories, the case auto-advances immediately, with no click from you, back to designing, still yours, if an approval cycle remains, or to delivered on the final cycle. Physical lab service categories instead wait at approved until the lab moves them to in manufacturing. They request changes, the case bounces to changes requested, rose badge, and you stay the holder, not a generic queue. The doctor's note shows up in chat, and for AlignerBot and Clear Aligner AI cases, the structured revision file, the XML or replacement transfer pack, lands in the files panel. They escalate, the case flips to escalated, red badge, and the holder transfers to your lab manager, who triages and either sends it back with notes or reassigns. 2 of those 3 end with you designing again, which is normal, and exactly what the next lecture covers. The short troubleshooting list. The button isn't there, either the case isn't in designing, check the status badge, or you're not the current holder, because the lab manager or an intaker reassign. Open the activity log and look for the most recent assignment entry. You clicked and the status didn't change, refresh, and if you're still in designing after a hard refresh, the request hit a server-side validation error, most likely because every approval step already carries an approve label, so there's nothing left to request. Open the chat with your lab manager. The customer says they got the email but the link goes nowhere. The case has almost certainly moved past awaiting approval already. Someone approved or changed the status in the meantime. Refresh the case detail and see where it sits now. And if you're looking for the place to write a note, there isn't one on the button. By design, send the note through the case chat first, then click Request Approval. That's the handoff. Know the upload split, respect the 2 trigger files, confirm the cloud has your deliverable, and 1 click, or none at all, sends the case to the doctor. It's the shortest workflow in this series, and the one you'll run the most, so it pays to have the rules cold. From here, 2 directions: handle customer rejection covers the loop when the case comes back as changes requested, and approve or reject a design shows the doctor's side of the very same page you just sent them to. The written version, with the full extension list in every edge case, is at cympha.com. Open the docs section and find Save Your Design and request approval. If you'd like the rest of the series as it comes out, subscribe. We're walking through every Cympha workflow, 1 lecture at a time. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.